I've got a really super guest tonight. We're going to have a great time, and I believe that you will really benefit from what she has to say. And I'll tell you more about her shortly. Uh, but I want to talk with you a little bit about the Spiritual But Not Religious show and the Spiritual Broadcasting Network. The show, Spiritual But Not Religious, the intent of the show is to bring you the many diverse voices of the spiritual community that's out there. You know, there are, I believe, at this point, millions of people who believe in some kind of a God who really don't see themselves as Christians or Jews or Muslims or any of the major religions. They just find themselves as being spiritual but not religious, and they really don't gather anywhere. Small groups, nothing large, and so there's no real voice for that community other than individuals broadcasting out there. And so that's the purpose of the spiritual but not religious show. Now, the Spiritual Broadcasting Network, we're going to be bringing you a lot of the different voices of that community. And after the first of the year, our programming will increase pretty dramatically. And so stay around. We'll have some really great hosts, some great shows lined up for you. My guest tonight is Debra Oakland, and she is the author of Living in Courage. She's just a marvelous lady. I'm sure you're going to have a great time with her tonight, as good a time as I think I'm going to have with her. Tom, we got Debra on the phone?
Yes, I do, John.
Debra, are you able to hear me? Well, we got a little tinny stuff in the background. Are you there, Debra?
Hi, I'm here. I'm just
Hi there.
trying to get the volume worked out here. I'm not.
Take your time. I understand how that is. And while you're doing that, unfortunately, Debra is not able to come in with video, so this evening. So we've got a picture up there for her.
Yeah, I'm not able to get to the volume either.
What? You're on a Windows machine?
No, I'm on a Mac.
Okay. Up in the upper right-hand corner, the volume up there.
I've got co-host. Yeah, I've got co-host.
No, I mean on the Mac bar itself, the Mac toolbar.
Oh, up above?
Yeah, up in the upper right-hand corner. You see
Yes.
that? Yeah,
Just pull that down.
yeah, pull that down and just turn it right down.
Okay, how's that?
That's much better. Good.
Perfect.
I think we've got it. Good for you.
Good.
You're a quick study. I can see that.
I don't know about that, but.
Well, I know I'm not. It's taken me years to figure some of this stuff out, I'll tell you, and I'm not sure I've got it all figured out at this point.
Well, you never do, so
Yeah,
it's all right. It's all good.
It's a process, and it's all good. Life's sweet no matter how bad it gets.
Exactly.
You know, that's for sure. So you've written a really good book. We're going to be talking about that and a lot of other things. What I really want to do with you tonight is I want to share some of your wisdom with our audience and give them some really good tools that they can take away from this show tonight that'll make their life better. I'll kind of guide us through that process shortly, but let's find out some background about you so that our audience will know who they're listening to. Where are you from initially?
Well, I was born in Los Angeles.
Okay.
In South Central. My grandparents lived in Watts.
Oh, really?
They were from Sweden.
Uh-huh.
And my mom's on the phone. My mom's on the call tonight too.
Oh, great.
And we ended up moving to Nevada, and then we ended up moving to Canada, to British Columbia.
Oh, wow.
In the backwoods.
And are you back in LA now?
Rupert. No, I'm in Laguna Beach.
Oh, you okay? Right. Just
living in Laguna Beach with my husband Cody.
Great. You've been married quite a while too, haven't you?
25 years. Yeah.
Just 25 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah, he's great. He's amazing.
Well, you must be too. You know, it takes two to make that kind of a deal work, for sure.
Yeah, thank you. We're best friends, and we love being together, and we just enjoy each other's company.
How'd you guys meet? What?
We met through a mutual friend, but we spotted each other actually in a nightclub.
Oh, good for you. You made one work out. Boy, I spotted several that way.
So it does work.
Well, I'm sure it can, yeah.
We met in a nightclub up in Orange and been together ever since.
Well, so tell me, were you affirming that you were looking for your soulmate and that your soulmate was going to walk through the door and you were going to live happily ever after? or were you just?
I had written down a list of everything that I wanted in a mate,
Aha.
and I put it away and forgot about it. And I was just having the time of my life.
Aha.
I was not looking,
Isn't
but I
that?
had made the intention. I'd set the intention of what I want and put it away.
I think that's so important. Is the putting both of those things, but especially the putting it away
Mhm.
part of it, and just kind of let go and let God.
Let go and let God, and He's everything that was on my list.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic.
It's worked out perfectly.
So tell me, what kind of a home were you raised in there in LA or in Canada? Was it? I mean, were you brought up in a religious setting or?
Well, uh, always usually on a horse ranch, a ranch of some sort.
Uh huh.
My mother is very spiritual. My father wasn't so much, but we had a great life. It was wonderful, and I have two brothers and two sisters that I grew up with.
Wow, that's a
My
nice big.
mother just kind of guided me to a lot of great spiritual books when I was younger, and I've always felt something around me. And it was interesting on the last visit that I had with my son before his accident, before he passed. My mom was in the kitchen, and she brought out all these photos, and she said, here's a bunch of photos. You want to look through them and take what you want? And I started noticing there was quite a few of them where there was big bolts of light coming into my head and back. I mean, really big bolts.
Well, that's
This
interesting.
was nothing small.
Right.
Different ages, different cameras, different homes. And I just lined them up the other day and looked at them. It's really fascinating, and I always feel like I've had assistance.
Right.
And I think I'm pretty sure I know which master works with me and guides me and protects me. Well, I do know, but
Yeah, I was going to say. I think
I know.
we know. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Sometimes we just we hesitate to just be so downright honest about that, and wonder how some people might take it. But that's got to be their issue, not ours.
I'm not concerned about that.
Yeah, yeah. So, uh, well, would you mind sharing that who your master is, or is that something?
Saint Germain of
We
the
we
Violet Flame.
Saint Germain happens to be one of my guides, so it's,
Yes.
yeah, very
Usually the people that come into my life are under that umbrella.
well. I'm sure. I'm
Mm.
very sure of that.
Mm-hmm.
The I have a couple other guides too, but Germain was is the main one
Mm-hmm.
at this point. I even got in touch with Saint John for a while.
Mm.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So at any rate, you had a series of some pretty horrific uh, uh, tragedies happen in your life that kind of really turned you into to the direction you're in now. How about telling us a bit about that?
Yeah.
What went on there?
And it was very difficult for the entire family, and my mom is on the call as well, and she's lost a lot of
What's your mother's
people.
name?
BJ.
BJ.
BJ Welsh. Yes.
BJ Welch. How are you tonight? She's not hearing us, I guess.
I don't. She's not real technical,
Not a problem.
so I'm not
not,
sure.
not a problem.
But
When you say she's on the call, you're saying she's watching is what she's
she's
doing.
she's listening. Yes,
I
she's
thought
watching.
maybe you had her conferenced in, and that's why.
No. She's just watching.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So over I believe it was about a 6-year period of time, um, I lost my 21-year-old son.
What happened there?
He was in Canada, living in Canada,
Uh huh.
and he and his girlfriend were in Vancouver at the time. They just moved there, and he was supposed to be the designated driver of one of the vehicles. He
Ah,
was in one, and he was in the other, and the boy that was driving wouldn't let my son drive. So, you figure going 4 miles down the road, what can happen?
a lot, unfortunately. Wow.
So my son got on the passenger seat, and the woman who went with them had a big fur coat on, and she got in the car with them. Her husband was in the other car, traveled down the road about 4 miles and hit an icy patch and went down an embankment.
Oh
And
my.
they hit a tree and it came down and crashed into the car and gave my son severe head injuries. It went down the embankment into a lake and flipped upside down and
Wow.
went through the ice into the water. The woman had grown up with the boy who drove, and she pulled him out and went back for my son. And with the big heavy coat on, the weight of the water and the icy water, she died also.
Wow. Loss of a child must be, in my mind, has got to be probably the worst tragedy that can happen.
Oh, you can't even describe it.
Yeah, it's just
And
beyond
we were
words, isn't it?
so close. So he's amazing, 21 years old.
Right.
And then my husband and I, Cody, we were going to have a baby, and I lost her in my 8th month of pregnancy.
Oh wow. Was that you have your first child, or after? Was this
This
before?
was after.
After.
My son was, I think, 19 at the time.
Right.
And
How many years ago was this? How long ago was this?
my son would be 36 now.
Okay, so it's 14, 15 years
It's
ago.
been a while, yes.
Right.
Yes. I think it was in 2000.
Did you suffer a lot of depression at that point?
No, I did not.
Good for you.
No. I have very strong beliefs in who we are and what happens to us when we go or when we transition.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that there's a sense of peace about all of it that I understand that a lot of people don't seem to understand.
What is your idea of the hereafter?
Well, I feel that we're eternal.
Right, and
I
that
feel
we're
that we're eternal, and that we make choices. And it's very odd. Someone had told me at some point that my son was to leave when he was 14.
Oh wow.
That he wasn't to be here, but he did not leave until he was 21, because I had lost both my brothers and the baby, and he knew it. I couldn't handle it.
Ah.
But he waited. Now, who knows if that's true?
I understand.
But I do believe that wherever he is, wherever my brothers are, my father, wherever they are, they're fine wherever they are. And they're exactly where they're supposed to be.
I tend to believe that same way. I think we're energy, and
Yes.
energy can't be destroyed. We're a vibration,
And I believe that we never die,
Right.
and we're eternal. What's the big rush about everything?
I'm in no hurry, I'll tell you
You know?
that.
And
Yeah.
wherever they are, they're fine. I'll see them again.
Right.
I just think of all the wonderful things that happened in my life. I'm so blessed to have had them all in my life.
So you lost your son, you lost a baby, and you
And
lost
both of my brothers.
and two brothers. They were lost to AIDS. Was that?
Yeah.
And there was another
My
loss,
father,
and you lost your father. And
prostate
this
cancer,
this
yeah.
all happened in how long?
about a 6-year period.
There are a lot of people who would certainly be feeling very sorry for themselves and would not get through that kind of thing very well. What do you is it your beliefs that you feel that got you through that time?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And I always say, if your belief system doesn't work for you when you go through something very challenging, find a new one. Mine worked.
Well, I think that's, in my life, any changes that have happened that I've been able to make occur in my life or to participate in my life have happened by changing an idea, a belief, which changed my viewpoint.
Yes.
And that's all that changes.
Yes. And if my viewpoint is completely wrong, when I leave here and I find out it wasn't true, which I doubt very strongly, but if I do, it carried me through while I was here.
Yeah, and we'll figure it out then. We got to be worrying about what's going on here now.
Exactly. It's time to, be present and take care of what's here now. And they're not here. I'm not going to be miserable. My first question I asked myself was, what would my son want me to do? How would he want me to feel?
Right.
He would want me to live my life with joy and peace. He would not want me burdened down and miserable the rest of my life.
I'm sure that I believe that God's will for every one of us is that we do everything necessary to bring ourselves to a state of joy.
I do too.
Yeah, I'm
And if you're
convinced of
if
that.
you're still grieving and hysterical after the shock is worn off and you've dealt with the grief, there's another problem.
Yes.
You need to look at that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more.
You know, if it becomes about you and it's what rules your life or gets you attention, you need to look for some assistance.
So when did you write Living in Courage? When did you write that book?
Well, that was interesting. I had thought about courage, just kept coming up for me all the time,
Right.
and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And David Ricklin came across my path, and he was giving a ebook class,
Uh-huh.
and I thought that could be really interesting to write an ebook on courage. And my husband, I said, it's kind of expensive, and my husband's like, you know what? Do it. I want you to do this. And I said, no, I don't think so right now. He says, you need to do this.
Good for him.
And I said, okay, because at the time it was, the funds weren't really there. And he said, you need to do this. Put it on a credit card. We're doing it. So I did it, and it was fantastic. David Ricklin is wonderful, and he has selfgrowth.com. It's a self-improvement and personal growth website, one of the largest that there is.
Uh-huh.
I think it's the largest on the internet. And I met a lot of great people there, and David actually endorsed my Living in Courage book.
I saw that.
Uh-huh. And I am right now in the process of expanding that book and writing a book.
When did you write the first draft on that? How long?
This book, I don't remember. It was a few years ago.
Was it? Okay. It's been some time.
4 years.
Okay.
And I just kind of wrote it from my heart, and my friends endorsed it. Some of the people that I know endorsed it. And I give it away free with my newsletter, my monthly newsletter.
Right.
I don't sell anything. I'm just here to provide tools for people to assist them to live a better life and to live in joy and peace.
Do you do coaching or anything of that nature?
No, I don't.
Good for
I
you.
talk to a lot of people.
Right, but anything you're doing, you're not charging for, which is.
No.
I do, all of the work that I do on that same kind of basis. I've done it for the last 28 years, and I think there's something, and I'm sure Deborah, there's something in when you just don't have that money horse in the race, people are able to hear you better.
Well, I'm just here. I'm not a big shot. I don't have books all over the place. I don't have seminars. I'm just here to support people and encourage them and inspire them. My blog is a spiritual oasis, encouragement for overcoming life's biggest challenges.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what, you're doing something on there that I just think is really cool, and I enjoyed a lot. You call it Courage, Coffee, and Pillow Talk. Tell us about that. That is a great idea, and you do a super job with that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
is another site that I have called Courage, Coffee, and Pillow Talk. It's just a blog I put together just for fun. I haven't even put anything on it recently.
Right.
My last was the Olympic Knitting Challenge
Right.
with Pamela.
Right.
And she is on the phone tonight, also with her friend Elkie, and they're listening as well.
Tell us the website, and Tom will put it up in the chat room so that people can get over there.
It's HTTP. It's www.couragecoffee and spelled out and pillowtalk.com.
One of the things that I see that you and I really relate to with is coffee. Several years back, I've been a coffee drinker all my life, and I just matter of fact, I saw some of the quotes you have in your rockin' quotes about coffee. But I even had my email address was Java Geo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was so. Coffee has been very important in my life. There's something very satisfying about it. And you know what? I don't even drink the high test anymore. I drink decaf. I still love it.
I drink decaf. I just can't do the caffeine. But I love some of the quotes I have on there.
Oh, they're great.
Pretty funny quotes on that site.
Yeah. So, One of the other thing that really struck me that you and I are very much in alignment with is, I spent many years working at being spiritual, and I'm sure that you have also.
Yes.
And I've heard often that we're spiritual beings having a human experience.
Mhm.
And I mulled that around and meditated with it and thought about it. And what finally occurred to me was, if I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, why am I working so hard at being spiritual? Maybe
Mhm.
maybe I need to be an authentic human being and see if I can't live an authentic life here.
Yes. Authenticity is so important.
Oh, it's huge, and
To
and
be
that was
yourself.
I see that was exactly the path that that you're
Yes.
on, and it's like,
I wrote an article about what hat are you wearing? Take off all the other hats. Wear your own hat. Don't wear anybody else's hat. Wear your own.
well, that's one of the like one of the biggest. Well, I think there are two problems that kind of keep the world in a stir. One is that most people aren't living their life in the moment. Most of them are on autopilot
Yes.
and unaware and just
Yes.
asleep, really.
Yes.
And the other thing that I think is a huge problem is lack of any self-esteem, and therefore needing a lot of others' approval.
Yes. I
Boy,
agree.
that just is very destructive
And a
behavior.
lot of time, what comes off as confident to a lot of people
It's
is
bravado.
insecurity.
Yeah, exactly, and it's the bravado used to cover up the insecurity so that no one sees it.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, because we don't. Egoism is a real huge problem.
Ego is a huge problem.
Deborah, I think if there is such a thing as the devil or Satan, that's it.
That would be it.
Yeah,
Ego.
yeah, right there. That's it. And when you see how scriptures talked about it and all that, you start and you know anything about it, you start to say, "Wow, what else could they be talking about here?"
Yes. I think I sometimes I put an E and then a dash and then a go. E dash go, and I think of effluvia, which is shadows.
Well, it's the dark side for sure.
Go, effluvia, go. you know,
Yeah, yeah.
Leave. Ego is such a huge issue,
I,
and
I've written a book about the shadow side, and to
mm-hmm.
me, the shadow is personified by the ego.
Yes, it
That's
is.
that's the dark side. That
It is.
and when I live in that part of me, boy, I really kind of moved out of that. I sometimes make occasional trips back, but I usually get a bloody nose these days,
Exactly.
and I
Who
gotta,
doesn't?
yeah,
That's how we learn.
exactly.
And ego is fear, and fear and love cannot, as you know, coexist in the same place at the same time, and you get to choose every single moment.
From my experience, and I'm just, well, I know this as a fact in my life, is that everything lies with choice.
Yes.
And I can have a good day or I can have a bad day, and the choice is mine. And I have tools to have a good day, and if I don't choose to pick them up, then I'm choosing suffering on my own.
You bet. If you leave them sitting in your tool belt and you don't use them, they don't do you any good.
Exactly, yeah. They're
And it's about harmlessness to self and others. Life it should be about harmlessness. And I think about living a life of excellence. Now, for me, it's like living a life of excellence to me is integrity, kindness, love, honesty, thinking about unity, peace, grace, opulence, minus the greed. And living a life that is devoid of excellence would be greed,
yeah.
hurting others to get ahead. There's enough for everyone to go around. Ego.
Are you familiar with Carlos Castaneda?
Yes.
Well, Carlos was one of my main teachers, and through his books. And one of the things that Don Juan talked about often was the idea of being impeccable,
Yes.
which is what I'm hearing you say.
Mm-hmm.
Really, and without living that kind of life, it's not worth living. Well, we talk about living the the uh, the life of more. Really, it's everybody's after more. But you said the key word, I think, an opulent or an abundant life.
Yes.
That's a whole different thing from how most people see it, because there really isn't enough to satisfy that greed, is there?
No, to be a spiritual being, living as a spiritual being, we are to be living in opulence,
I'm totally sure that's exactly the case.
not in greed.
But and that doesn't mean that we have to have a lot of money in the bank to be living an opulent life.
No, it does
That's the
not. It
no.
means connecting with nature. I think of the books, the Ringing Cedar series with Anastasia, and that's opulence.
Yeah, yeah,
That is opulence.
yeah, and it's
Living that beautiful life surrounded by all of Mother Nature and her kingdoms in pure love and bliss and peace. I mean, how much better? It doesn't get better than that.
no, because it's in our relationships with our environment and with the people around us.
And it's where we came from. It's the core of who we are.
Yeah.
When we trust in our higher selves in everything and all things, our higher selves will guide us to what our individual life needs are. We don't even have to figure it out if we really trust our higher self, connect with our higher self, and live from the inside out.
Well, yeah, but you see, therein lies the problem. Most people are externally driven, and the
Yes,
idea
they
of
are.
getting quiet and getting connected to that inner guidance is very difficult for
Well,
most
that's
people.
the tools I like to provide, and I always say that if you have, you're in your heart lives love, wisdom, and power, and if you have enough love in your heart, it allows you the wisdom to direct the power, and that's a big key.
Well, you see, I think that this whole thing is really about learning about the power that we have available to us,
Yes,
and learning how to use it rightly.
I do too.
And when I use that power rightly, I experience joy.
Yes,
And when I'm in, if I have resentments and if I have regrets and if I have anger, all I'm doing is supplying short circuits in that power, in that energy source.
mhm,
And I can't find my way to joy on that kind of a basis.
no,
So you've got a pretty big following on Facebook, and I
mhm,
guess from what I understand, were featured in one of the idiot books, Idiot's Guide to Facebook. Is that right?
yes, I
How
was.
did that come about?
Oh, I met my friend online. I met Michael Belikov
Uh huh.
online, and I don't know. I found out he lived in Laguna, and we started talking. And he said, I'd like you to meet my friend Joe Kranek, and would you mind if we use your profile in our Complete Idiot's Guide to Facebook? And I think it was over a year period of time. I couldn't tell anybody or talk to anyone about it, but yes, they used my profile in there a bit. And now he's become a friend in Laguna. He's fabulous, Michael. He's a great guy. Um, so that was just something that I wasn't expecting. I just wake up and let the day happen. I don't know. I don't even know how you found me. you know, I
I totally. Well, Saint Germain.
it must be.
We got a lot of noise coming from the.
It, I have no idea. I just allow things to happen. I don't go out and look and try and force it.
Right.
I found a friend on Facebook, Debra Couple, who has a wonderful site for absolutely fabulous women, and she's doing Cabana Talk interviews.
I saw that. That's very interesting.
Yeah, we went up to LA and did interviews, and actually on my blog is an interview
Uh huh.
with two of the girls that were at that interview, and so that interview is right on my blog. There's an orange button. You just click it and
Click it and
go and listen to it. Yeah.
well, I listened to that. That was a great interview.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a great interview. So, as a matter of fact, one of the things I picked up I wanted to talk with you about tonight, I heard on that interview, and I think you call them the five nasty
Yes.
habits. Let's talk about the five nasty habits. First of all, tell us
I call them the five nasties.
the five nasties.
They are criticism, condemnation, judgment, blame, and gossip.
And you know what? There's one other that might make that list too, and that is the need to be right.
Mhm.
But let's talk a little bit about excuse me, about these five, because they're so prevalent in
Oh, they are.
And when I look at them, what I see here is a cover up for low self esteem. No, I think the world really suffers most from a huge lack of love, deficit of self love.
Yeah. Yes, it does. And I think we've grown up learning to gossip and talk about other people and how we could fix other people's lives instead of looking into our own lives,
Well,
again, from the outside in.
yeah, absolutely. I quit the gossip thing about 28 years ago. You were talking earlier, and a lot of when I think about the reason that I've worked at change, it's not because I'm so spiritual or that I want to be so wonderful. It's really a lot more self-centered than that. And that is, I'm convinced that what goes around comes around.
Oh, yes.
And if I give out nothing but good, sooner or later, whatever stuff I've done that wasn't is going to clear up, and that's what's going to be coming back in my direction. Good.
Yes.
And if
I
I'm
believe
if
that.
I'm gossiping about someone, I'm really character assassinating them. I'm committing murder.
Yes.
It's a horrible thing, gossip, and it's been
And discouragement, that's another one.
yeah.
Like if you said if there was a sin, I think one of the things that would be one of the worst things you could do is especially to a child, is to discourage a child. Discouragement is just a horrible thing. And then we grow up as adults and become
Crippled.
disappointed,
We-
crippled,
Yeah, crippled.
disappointed with life, confused, wandering around trying to figure out what happened. And as we grow up, we learn to criticize, condemn, judge, blame, and gossip. It's easier to blame somebody else on for something that you don't want to take the blame for. It's easier to pass the judgment off to somebody else, and we've got to get out of that family of fear.
Well, one of the things that, as I watched gossip, and when as I watched the desire to gossip in me, was that the thing I wanted to condemn the other person for was something that I had in me that I didn't want anybody to see.
Of course it is.
And I'm just trying to push it away from me. And if I can get their eyes on you, then the chances of them seeing me are slimmer.
Yeah, they're just a mirror.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well,
As a matter of fact, you go out in the world, it's kind of like going in through a house of mirrors at the circus.
we're all just mirrors for each other.
Well,
it's
and at first that's kind of, it's a hard pill to swallow when you first get onto the idea. But after you realize it, it's such a boon to be able to know that.
Mhm.
You can really, it becomes a good guide. It's like,
It does.
yep,
It does. And then if you can replace these things with love and kindness and authenticity and taking ownership and responsibility, then you can change your life around. You've got all these great laws out there that people talk about, and like what I feel, I make real.
right.
And what I conceive, I can achieve, and all these things, and we can spout everything that we want to just spout out there, but if you're not living it, it's not helping you.
Yeah,
You need to think it and feel it and see it and use the power of vision. It's like the bridge between your mind, your heart, your feelings.
well, the statement, I believe it was Descartes who said it, that I think, therefore I am,
Yes.
really falls short of the mark. And
And I
that,
think the I am was in capitals.
well, yeah, and but I'm not sure that's where
I don't.
how
I
he meant
agree
that.
with.
But you know what? What that does is it just totally left out the feeling part of that, and without the feeling part of that, you don't have the desire, and without the desire, it's like, so he left a big part of us out.
Yes.
One of
And the feelings. Well, it's like I always say. The feelings is the engine that makes the car go. It's what brings
it's
action in.
it's
And
the motive force without
yes,
question,
and it's
absolutely.
energetic, and it connects with the mind and the mental body, and it moves things forward. So be careful what you are thinking.
Let me take us back a little bit here to these five nasties, and
Mm.
because I don't think most people want to be caught in these things consciously.
Mhm.
you know. So tell us, you know, were you ever caught in these nasties yourself?
Of course.
And okay, and let's take them one at a time. When did you decide to not be use criticism, and what how did you go about changing that in yourself?
I think losing so many people in my family
Yeah,
changed my priorities.
right.
My priorities. I thought, what's the worst that could happen to me now? It's all happened. There's nothing else that can happen.
I say that often to people. I don't know what you're worried about. The worst
Yeah,
already happened, you know.
yeah. The worst that has happened is happened. So from there, I move on to joy, and I move on to connecting with my higher power. Which, if I don't connect to my higher power, I've got nothing.
That's the key, isn't it?
It is. So I connect to my higher power, and I say, I want to stop criticizing. I want to quit. I want this little monkey mind to stop talking and chattering and running my life. I want to hear the voice of my higher self coming through me, out through my heart. I don't want to hear this little voice yammering at me that you're not good enough, or you're not smart enough, you're not this, you're not that. So I take it every time it starts yakking at me and talking. I take it and I stand it up in front of an elevator and I tie it in duct tape. I tape its mouth and I hit the elevator and I put it in and I say, when you can be nice and you want to come back and you want to communicate with me, you can come back up. And I hit the button.
What do you do with the rest of the committee that resides in your head?
Oh,
If you've only got one voice in there, you're doing really well.
no, they're a whole family. It's the whole family. I
Yeah.
send them all. Each whatever the voice is, I just send it.
Yeah.
If it's negative, I just send it. And you know, you're never perfect and you
No.
never get it right, but at least you can walk up the ladder of the stairway towards the best you can be every day and make an effort. Because if you don't make an effort, nothing's going to change.
You know, there's a really good book. I think Ernest Kurtz was the author of it. It's called The Imperfection of Spirituality.
Oh, I like that.
Oh, very powerful, very powerful book, and you know, very much talks about what you're talking about here. If I recall, during the interview you talked about the divine feminine.
Yes,
I,
yes.
tell you know, let me I believe that like that we need the divine feminine, but here's kind of what I see as the the challenge of men understanding that. It's the divine feminine, which doesn't go well with football and all the stuff. Like it doesn't go with the manly stuff so much. And when I go back and Deborah, when I go back in history and I see when that we had the matriarchy rather than the patriarchy was in power, I'm not
Yes.
sure it was much better then.
Hmm.
The same kind of stuff was going on. But
Well, about that time, we'd already chosen free will, so we kind of went downhill from there.
yeah, exactly. So, but what occurred to me today, and it's like, and I've supported this idea of the divine feminine because we have, I have feminine and male in me, and everybody
Hmm.
else does too. We just
Yes.
need to integrate that. But I also think there's a divine male. And I believe that like that we as men need to move in to that divine male. I've never heard
Yes.
anybody say that, but
Yes.
I believe that's true. It's like it isn't just the feminine part of me that's divine. Also the
No.
male part of me is.
No, it isn't.
But it's being in that dark side, that egoism, and out of the divine period. That's really the issue. I think really the problem.
Well, if you think about us in our absolute perfected state,
Right.
we are
Androgynous.
androgynous. We are
Yeah.
a balance of both.
Yeah.
And we've moved away from that divine balance of love and light, masculine, feminine, heart, mind.
Right. Exactly.
We've moved away from that. And it has got to get back to the balance. I'm thinking about a book that I have been reading recently that's quite fantastic and very difficult to read. Have you heard of Helen Rorich?
No.
She wrote Letters, 1929 to 1938. It's volume 1. And she writes about the divine feminine in this book. I'm actually looking up something she said really quickly about women. And she calls it dual origin.
Aha.
And I like that because we are dual origin. And there's
Absolutely.
a balance in that, and we need to get back to that dual origin, which she speaks of in this book.
Well, we live in a world of duality, and we are duality in ourselves, and it is about that integration, that balance between all of those various things about us. I'm sure that that's right. What is her name? Helen Rorich?
Yes, Helena,
Helena.
Helena, Roerich. And the book is Letters of Helena Rorich. The first volume is 1929
How'd you come
to
across? How'd you come
1938.
across? How'd you come across this work?
I found a quote. My beautiful friend Jeannie Marshall bought me this Gathering 365 Thoughts
Ah,
recently.
okay. One a day?
She's listening to the call, too.
Haha.
And you pick one a day, but they're very obscure. They're very different.
Uh-huh.
And one of them was from Helena Rorich. And I posted it on Facebook because it was one of the most profound statements I'd read. Everything she writes, every paragraph could be a book. It's just, I can't even tell you. And so I posted it, and a friend of mine, he went in and looked up her letters. Steve Talamy, he went up and looked up her letters and sent them to me.
He's from England?
Yes, he's from England.
Okay.
And he and I are co-authoring my book now. We just decided to do this.
Oh, great, great.
He is also going to be co-authoring my newsletter from now on
Cool.
as well. And he writes a lot about Mother Nature and her kingdoms. But he just came out and visited for 7 days, and he brought me these 2 volumes because he bought them and couldn't quite understand what they were saying. They're very much like, the Saint Germain books and the Keys of Enoch, and, it's this mixture of all these different books. So I've been fascinated reading her, and that's how I came about the book.
Cool. Well, Steve sounds like a pretty interesting guy. He would probably make a good guest on our show.
He
I
would
think.
make an amazing guest on your show, and
Maybe.
he'll probably listen to this tomorrow. He's probably asleep right now. It's late there.
Well, great. If you'll send Tom an email or some contact information, we'll get a hold of him.
I will do that.
I'd like very much to meet him.
Yes, he's fantastic. He is so connected to Mother Nature and all of her gifts, and we've decided to integrate that into the book that I'm writing about universal laws and principles and precipitation in a different way
Right.
than you read about now, because all the great books were written in 1920s, 30s, and 40s were some of the
Powerful stuff was happening in the 30s, 20s, 30s, and 40s. Powerful stuff.
the most profound books
Yeah.
that I've ever read are written then, and I still go back and research some of these books.
I spent a lot of time with books from that era. I think, Deborah, that period of time was a huge shift. Started, like I think this whole age of Aquarius, or whatever you want to call this revolution, the spiritual revolution and transcendence that I believe is in process now. I think there was a real upheaval that kind of pushed it really forward in the 30s and 20s,
Yeah.
30s and 40s.
I think it was a window of time when they were hoping that things were going to shift then,
Yeah.
and they didn't. And then again in the 60s, and now we're approaching 2012, and we're into a big shift, a big change in energy and consciousness.
Absolutely. And you know what I think is one of the big driving factors that are pushing people into that at this point and waking them up? Drugs and alcohol. Huge.
And fear of what's
Huge.
going to happen with the economy, instead of realizing, look around you. There is so much beauty in this world to concentrate on and to bring love into your life. And when things do get really difficult, there'll be some that aren't going to make it through.
Well, yeah, and that's just, I guess that's kind of how it is with whatever is going on.
Yes.
But when you go back to what you said, we're talking about earlier, they don't die. We're not dying anyhow. It's just, some kind
Right.
of a change.
But people go back and read the Master Key System by Charles Hannell. You know, there is so many books, the Saint Germain books. Secret Splendor: The Journey Within by Charles Ernest Essert. That's another incredible book. And you've got writers like Wallace Wattles, Charles
Wallace
Hannell.
Wattles was a marvelous writer. He just
Oh, just Thomas Troward.
Troward is really powerful.
Yeah,
One of my favorite authors. Well,
and Butler.
Waddle was like he wrote about the law of attraction, but from a whole different viewpoint from the way
Exactly.
people are using it today.
Yes, he did, and it's a phenomenal book. And then you've got Thought Vibration by William Atkinson and Invisible Power by Genevieve Behrend, and there's just so many books written back then that just stir the soul.
Well, I
And
can hear that you've just really kind of just spent your time watching TV, haven't
yeah, well, not too much anymore. And
Right.
then another book that affected me so powerfully was The Anamkara
I
by
haven't
John O'Donohue.
I haven't read that. Powerful book.
One of the most powerful books. It's the Book of Celtic Wisdom.
Oh,
But
okay.
the Anamkara is about your soul friend. And Steve Tallamy turned me on to it. And I turned him on to, and several of the people on the call, everyone I know is reading the Anastasia books, the Ringing Cedar series.
Well, 2 weeks ago I had a guest on, Ann Morrison. She's a Broadway actress,
Mm-hmm.
and she's into the Celtic part of it, and was in Scotland and in a glen there, and made contact with the fairies there. Very powerful,
Mm.
the whole Celtic thing. What was the author you just said that wrote about the Celtic?
Oh,
That's what
that was John O'Donohue.
I'll have to tell her about that. I'm
The
sure
book
she.
is Anamkara, Anamcara. It's beautiful. He just passed recently, and his writing is so beautiful, so powerful.
So, if at this point we were to talk about the thing dearest to your heart, the thing that you like to make sure that we talked about before time ran out, would there be something that we haven't touched on?
Well, we could
I've
talk
got
about the higher self. We could talk about
I've got a
courage.
list of things I want to talk about with you, but I wanted to give you an opportunity. Usually I wait until the last minute, but I had a hunch that if we wait till the last minute, like you wouldn't get your voice in because this conversation with you and I could go on for 2 or 3 hours.
I know we could talk forever. We'll have to
Yeah,
do it again.
yeah, absolutely.
I would like to say, I'm not here to argue my beliefs or convince anybody I'm right. My
Yeah,
job's to monitor myself so I can be a living example of kindness and love, and I can give tools to people. I can't fix anybody, but they can use the tools if they choose to use them. And I can just keep directing people back to their own power, to their higher selves, which is, love. That's the most important message I have to give.
yeah, and
And
I can't tell you what you should or shouldn't do or be doing. But I can help guide you to what you should be doing.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I just posted my definition of courage on my blog today.
Tell us that.
Oh, well, I said I was thinking about courage. Huge subject, but this is what came to me while mulling it over. Courage is the will to act upon the strength and power within the heart. Courage is not something you can have, it's something you become. To live a courageous life takes place in a person's life when they allow the true essence of who they are to rise up and shine for all the world to see, fearless of opinion. Those courageous individuals who are true to themselves feel a powerful resolve that is unshakable, a true conviction of purpose to carry on in the face of any challenge. To stand in power of purpose is a pure point of courage, available to everyone who cares to utilize it in their life. The unfoldment brings forward the power alive within. This point of power has been diminished greatly, and when awakened, can shatter the fear of moving forward toward the intention or goal. Greatness arises from mediocrity. One or more lives are altered as awareness shifts to possibility and progress. Great is the union of courage and honor, a great gift within the heart of every human soul.
That's very powerful. A great piece of writing.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
what courage means to me.
Well,
And I said, what is your definition of courage? I would love to hear from you.
so one of the things that I'd be interested in the responses that you're going to get. I'll have to get on there and take a look.
Well, the problem with the blog is I get all my responses on Facebook. I don't get many. I need to get people to my blog.
Well, what I think that's one of the more difficult things to do these days.
I know.
Is to, and it's I've listened to a couple of the gurus in this line of work, and they say you got to go where the people are, and not where not try so much to bring them to where we are.
I guess.
Yeah.
I just go with the moment,
Yeah, I totally hear
Whoever's
that.
to find me will. I don't try and search people out. It's just whoever finds you finds you.
Well, I hope they find your blog. I hope we're certainly going to promote you because it's
Oh, thank you.
yeah, it's really really well done. You do a
And I
nice.
don't sell anything. I mean, Steve and I will have the book coming out, and I'm not sure when it's going to come out, but we just decided to collaborate on it because I think the two of us are so intermeshed in the way that we believe and think, and I think it's so important to add the Mother Nature and her kingdoms, and combine that with the spiritual journey because it's such an integral part of it.
You familiar with Saint Francis?
Yes.
Well, Saint Francis was a nature mystic.
I think Steve would know a lot.
Yeah, and I just get a hunch that maybe Steve is a nature mystic himself.
I think he is. I
Yeah.
really believe that.
Yeah, we can even if we don't call ourselves a mystic, we can be a mystic without even knowing that that's what we are. These labels. You know how that stuff goes.
Yes, and he has SteveTalamy.com, and it's all about nature and gardening.
Has he written a book at all?
No, that's how I met him. He was going to write a book. I was going to write a chapter for the book, and then the book, it didn't happen, and we just kept on our journey together through self-growth and Facebook, and he came out and visited us a couple of years ago, said he thought it would change his life, and it's changed all our lives, and he just came out again, and it's been his birthday, and it's just been an amazing journey to meet people on Facebook who are becoming like family.
Yeah, well, what's interesting to me about that is that, and I've like you, I've met people in person after, from a long ways away. So many people think that meeting people like that kind of like takes away the intimacy, but but for me, it's the opposite.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's exactly the opposite. And the people who say that are people who haven't experienced it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think that once you get involved there that there's any way that you can say that. Are you you may be interested in doing a show like the one I'm doing, and we will be contacting you and about that possibility as we expand after the new year.
Sounds like a lot of work.
Well, it is a lot of work. That's why I was kind of like checking. It's a lot. Well, you know how it is. The work you've got in your blog and all that. You have a lot of work there, and like you said, you're not doing that on a regular basis.
Yeah, I used to do it every day. Well, I love doing that. Yes, I do.
So what is your primary passion at the moment? Your purpose?
Getting back to living the way I used to live in Canada in the backwoods. I mean, we're part of Transition Laguna. We're helping Laguna become a sustainable community with this wonderful group of people in Laguna. We're planting gardens and seeds, and
Really?
I'm going to be teaching a canning class. We just went to a cheese-making class. It's getting back to supporting yourself through nature. That is such a huge passion of mine right now. Planting seeds and growing gardens and planting seeds in your mental, physical, and spiritual body and nourishing them.
Well, what's interesting about when you say that, I think that we miss the when we talk about the law of attraction and the law of this and the law of that, we
Mm.
really miss the what I think is the biggest law of all, and that's the law of the seed, because
Yes,
everything comes from a seed,
it does.
everything, and
Everything comes from the seed.
yeah, absolutely,
And it's the bridge to love.
it is the bridge to love, and we need to plant these seeds, and they grow. And
Yes, they do.
yeah, and the thing about it is they so much of this happens in the invisible realm
Yes.
that it's hard to really, come to understand that that's what's going on.
And the seeds do not and cannot grow if they're not nourished.
They have to have food and water and air and
Mm.
sunshine.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they don't grow in secrecy and in gossip.
No, they do not.
So, what do you think is the biggest? We got about 3 minutes left here.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you a hard question.
Okay.
What do you think uh, would be the most impacting thing that that anybody could do to try to get people to really understand how much these five nasties harm them, let alone others?
Look at what's going on in your outer life.
Well,
Your outer life reflects your inner life.
yeah, no, that's not my question.
Okay.
My question is, how do we bring people to understand that? Are we only able to do that through the power of example, or is there some key? Because if those five things that you have right there could change,
Okay.
the whole world would change overnight.
What about taking one of those things a day? Criticism, condemnation, judgment, blame, and gossip. Pick one for the week.
I couldn't agree more.
Pick one.
But here's the thing. What happened for me was my backside was on fire, and my life had crashed and burned, and that's what really turned me. You had five tragedies that turned you.
Hmm.
And I don't think this happens from the pulpit. So I'm not sure what the change is. I guess we just keep doing what we're doing, right?
Well, I mean, if you actually take one of those and work on it, like say, I am not going to gossip today. I will not. Wear a rubber band. Snap yourself every time you do it. You know, sit back, and when you get home, be grateful. Sit before you go to sleep and concentrate on something positive, not
Yes.
the news. Think on something positive and write down what you're grateful for every day. And stop yourself. Make a concentrated effort. You can't go on automatic pilot. You have to make a concentrated effort to stop these things.
I totally agree, and you have to be in the now. I think we have run out of time, Deborah.
Okay.
You have been a sweetheart. I
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed having you on the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George, for having me.
And I know you're making a huge impact out there in the world, and you just keep up the good stuff. All right.
Okay,
All
I
right.
will.
And you have Steve get a hold of us if you would. We'll look to
Yes,
have him on the show.
yes, I will.
Okay, Deborah. Have a
That
good
would be a good show.
have a good night now.
You too.
Thank you. Bye bye. Tom, she was a great guest. You were right. Just a really personable lady. I'd like to know her in person. I'd like to know her and her husband both. Are we out of time? All right. So we've got a great guest lined up for next week. I don't have time to tell you. I'm going to have to keep it a secret, but watch for it on the site. And come back next Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And in the meantime, don't forget to accentuate the positive and have a fantastic day.